I Hate the News is the weekly news bulletin from I Hate Politics podcast, a show about a human activity we love to hate. I'm Sunil Dasgupta. The week of May 21st, 2024. It's almost Memorial Day. Maryland primary election day is now a week past. We'll do the numbers with Gilberto Zelaya of the Montgomery County Board of Elections. County Council President Andrew Friedson on criticism of the new 2024-25 budget passed last week. Maryland Public Service Commission Chair Fred Hoover on getting tough with retail energy suppliers. And a canine flu outbreak continues in the local animal shelter. Music for this episode comes from Doogie Whittaker and the Lonesome Mile. Whittaker on vocals and guitar, Howard Rayback on bass, Allison Cena on the drums. The song is called Streetlight Sigh, lyrics by Dale Ingram.
Johnny says that it doesn't pay to try. Doesn't take a smart boy to know why. Looking back if I see gravestone lines. I'm signing up to make a street.
With all the election noise, what passed somewhat unnoticed, though I imagine not for long, was the Montgomery County Council passing the budget for the next fiscal year 2024-25. The county executive, even some council members who supported it, the teachers and staff unions have protested that MCPS will not be fully funded. I asked Council President Andrew Friedson whether MCPS will have to increase class sizes as a result.
It's a $3.3 billion budget. Ultimately, as you know, the county council provides funding to the school system, and the school system decides how to prioritize that funding. So ultimately, they're going to have to make decisions, as they always do, and they're going to be held accountable to those decisions as we are held accountable to ours. They asked for almost $188 million above last year's number. The county executive funded them just under $130 million above last year's number in his recommended budget. We didn't think that was enough given the needs in schools, and so we funded them at $157.3 million. We funded 99.2% of the Board of Education's request, and we did so without raising taxes or increasing the county's debt and maintaining our reserve levels above 10.8%. Now, the county executive, who has been critical of the budget, he was critical of certain things that weren't funded. Those things weren't funded specifically because we added $26.3 million to his recommended budget for MCPS. But we added $26.3 million to the county executive's recommended budget. Everything that the county executive discussed in his rant about the budget, those were items that weren't funded specifically because they had to compete with the additional funding we provided with schools.
How many seats do you expect to add to early childhood pre-K?
The Early Childhood Education Initiative, the ECI folks in the executive branch believe that they're going to create, I believe, and I'd have to check this number, but about 180 to 250 seats.
Given all the cuts, do you think the county needs to figure out what to do on the revenue side of things about taxes?
Well, it depends on your perspective. The county budget has grown substantially. So the idea that we have done nothing on taxes is not really accurate. So there's a couple reasons. Number one, several years ago in the midterm election, I authored a charter amendment with the support of, first, my government operations and fiscal policy committee colleagues, Sidney Katz and Nancy Navarro, and ultimately the full council. And we built a massive coalition of businesses and labor and educators and Republicans and Democrats across the board. It was one of the broadest coalitions that we've ever built in Montgomery County, certainly in my professional career, my adult life. And we changed the tax code. We changed the way that we collect property taxes so that it is a rate-based system, which is a more functional, more realistic system, versus a revenue cap. That revenue cap was literally starving the county government of money. It led to all kinds of negative outcomes. And so we now do capture the benefit of an economy that is growing, of property assessments that are increasing. It's just that the spending has gone way, way up. And so, at a certain point, there has to be a reckoning and a question of how to balance what the revenue stream is and what the spending priorities are. And that's a philosophical choice. The county executive has long championed tax increases. He believes that societies are not judged by their tax increases and that we should continue to increase taxes. Last year the conversation about the budget that the county executive put forward was that it was an education focused budget, that there was this significant tax increase, 10% tax increase, one of the largest proposed in the history of the county, all dedicated to public education. The reality of the actual budget is that wasn't true. It was a huge tax increase dedicated to everything. It increased county government more than it increased public education.
I think we may hear from County Executive Mark Elrich soon. One of the more consequential bills to become law in Maryland in 2024 seeks to regulate the wild space of retail choice energy. The emergence of retail choice energy suppliers and their often predatory practices are the result of Maryland's power deregulation in 1999 and the 2009 Public Service Commission rule called Purchase of Receivables that made the power distribution companies, PEPCO, BG&E, responsible for collecting customer bills but paying out the energy suppliers ahead of time. This took the risk out of the market, and retail energy suppliers from around the country flooded in. Heck, even PEPCO and BG&E set up separate subsidiaries to capture the market. Then combined with sharp marketing practices, including bait and switch with low introductory offers that jumped out of the fine print and into the checkbooks of ratepayers, it is estimated that Maryland customers have overpaid for electricity to the tune of $1.2 billion. But this year, the Maryland state legislature passed a bill to regulate this market. And even before Governor Moore had signed the bill, this commercial from the Maryland Public Service Commission was on the air.
When it comes to buying electric and gas supply in Maryland, you have a choice. But what you see may not be what you get. Choosing to use an electric or gas supplier is a major decision. Don't sign a contract until you've done your research. Take time to compare offers. Prices can go up and down, and promotional offers may be temporary. Suppliers may contact you with all kinds of offers, but you have a right to understand the fine print. To learn more, visit mdenergychoice.com.
Listening to the commercial, I called Fred Hoover, the new chair of the Maryland Public Service Commission, to ask what to expect.
So what we have seen over the years is that companies that were involved in the retail energy supply business were not always following the rules and regulations and laws when they interacted with customers and trying to sign them up for retail electricity and natural gas. And so what Senate Bill 1 is attempting to do is create some new guardrails, I guess, for how the companies operate and how they interact with customers in the state of Maryland. The idea behind this is that customers have the ability to select their energy supplier. Now, they can do this based on a number of different factors. If they want to do it solely based on the price of the product, they have that opportunity. Some consumers are interested in how their electricity is made, and they're willing to pay a little more money for so-called renewable energy. But what we found was that in some of the marketing activities of some retail suppliers, they would contact customers either at the door, over the phone, sometimes via email, and have a discussion with the customer, but not get the customer's consent to actually sign up with the company. But they would go ahead and register them as one of their customers, and then the customer wouldn't find out that they had been switched from either their current supplier or no supplier until they got the bill, which tended to be higher than what they had been paying in the past. The bill intends to do is to prevent the so-called slamming situation by essentially requiring an affirmative consent by the customer.
Are there any rate caps as well?
There are provisions in there, and this is some items that are going to be worked out administratively as we put the bill into effect. But the idea was to try to cap rates at a certain level based on what's known as standard offer service. The new law is tying the rates that companies can charge to this standard offer service. Now, there will be some variation for the companies that offer renewable energy, but there's going to be a higher level of scrutiny applied to the renewable energy offers to make sure that we can verify that if somebody's buying renewable energy, they're actually buying renewable energy and not sort of fake renewable energy.
How did the Senate Bill 1 strengthen the hands of the Public Service Commission for you to police and enforce the new rules?
Well, it provides higher penalties for some of the violations, but actually the real I think triggering enforcement mechanism is we are now going to be requiring that these retail energy suppliers undergo first a training aspect so that individuals in the company are trained as to what the rules and regulations and laws are. But the second part is they're going to be required to actually get a license from the Public Service Commission in order to operate.
So they'll be submitting their rates on a regular basis to you then?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you'll be monitoring those rates?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Are you thinking of reforming what is called the purchase of receivables?
Well, actually, that was an item that the legislature decided on its own to prohibit.
Okay, so retail choice energy companies have to go out and do their own collection now? How will it work?
Yeah, they will have to make their own efforts in that area in order to collect the bills. So
no direct payment from Pepco and BG&E to them?
No.
Fred Hoover, Chair of Maryland Public Service Commission, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Maryland primary election day was May 14th. Let's do the numbers with Gilberto Zelaya of the Montgomery County Board of Elections.
For early voting over the 8 consecutive days, about give and take 20,000 voters showed up. That's about 2.99, under 3%. For election day, a little over 65,000 showed up. And so if you do the numbers, give and take, if you for election days, about 9.45% of the electorate showed up. And the mail-in is a moving target right now. So even like I've mentioned, we have 71,000 received in-house, but we're still actively counting mail-in ballots, receiving mail-in ballots from the Postal Service. Right now, as it stands, we've canvassed 45,000 and scanned. That's about 6.54%. As of today, Sunday the 19th, it's at 19%. Friday the 24th is the last day that mail-in ballots. And then if we need an extension, we will ask for the extension. The certification deadline, also the initiation of the second canvass, the mail-in canvass, and the deadline to receive mail-in ballots is on Friday, the 24th of May. So if need be, we need to continue counting, we will request that extension from the State Board of Elections. If you want to track your mail-in ballot, you could text the word TRACK, TRACK, to 77788. We welcome you to observe the canvas. It's open to the public. You may learn a thing or two. And then we also need poll workers for the general elections. We had a large poll worker force made up of high school, civic-minded high school students that served. But just like my son, he's graduating, so he's not coming back for the November elections to serve. So if you have a child, neighbor, family member who is at least 16 years of age, is a U.S. citizen and pre-registered to vote, we encourage them to serve as well. And all you need to do is text the word serve, SERVE, to 77788. Students can earn up to $250 per day of service, and or 25 student service learning credits, SSL. So it's a great opportunity to introduce them to the democratic process while they're still in high school.
Gilberto Zelaya, known everywhere as Dr. Z. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, my friend.
If you want a more political take on the results, be sure to listen to the May 17th episode of I Hate Politics, where UMBC professor Andrew Nolan and I break down the lessons from the primary. We end with news of a continuing outbreak of canine flu virus at the Montgomery County Animal Services and Adoption Center on Muncaster Mill Road. The center has been closed since May 2nd and will remain closed until the outbreak ends. As of May 17th, 54 dogs have been affected, but only 23 continue to show symptoms now. The center is looking for families without other pets at home to consider fostering a dog to improve isolation.
Kinda says that it doesn't pay to try.
That's all for this episode. Please be sure to check out our feature interview series that come out Friday mornings. I Hate Politics is produced by me, Sunil Dasgupta, and assistant producers Daniel Galileo, Katarina Gasek, and Catherine Amaya Escobar, with support from University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I direct UMBC's political science program at the universities at Shady Grove in Montgomery County, where, among other things, we explore and learn about politics, government, and society close to home. Music for this episode comes from Doogie Whittaker and the Lonesome Mile. Whittaker on vocals and guitar, Howard Rayback on bass, and Allison Cena on the drums. The song is called Streetlight Sigh. Lyrics by Dale Ingram. If you want to share your music on the show or know someone else who might want to, please email us at producer@ihbpod.org. See you next time.